Hi. Well, it's Old Testament Tuesday, and I am still in 1 Samuel, and I'm still focused on King Saul. We saw last time that Samuel had anointed him to be the first king over Israel. And in the early years of his reign, Saul was actually quite successful. As a warrior, he was sent out by the Lord to fight many battles, and as long as he consulted God and asked Samuel and just sought the counsel of the Lord, he was successful. He was a very successful king and warrior. But then he committed two acts of blatant rebellion. The first one was taking on the role of priest and prophet when, before going into battle, instead of waiting for Samuel to come and pray and make the sacrifice and consult God, he just said, well, Samuel must be running late, I'll just take care of it myself. So he very presumptuously stepped into the role of priest. And when Samuel does come, he tells him that the Lord is very displeased with that, and that it's already been decided that he will not have a lasting reign, that he will not have a dynasty, but that the kingship will be given to another man who's more worthy. The second rebellion was when Saul was assigned to go and completely obliterate the Amalekites, who were longtime enemies of Israel and enemies of God. And instead of doing what he was told, he spared a bunch of the animals, and he spared the king, King Agag. So when Samuel shows up on the scene this time, and asks him about it, how'd the battle go? He, don't when you know somebody's going to lie to you, don't encourage them that way. But that's exactly what Samuel does, and Saul starts making all kinds of excuses, and I'm paraphrasing in modern language. Samuel's like, well, he's not having any of it. He's like, get over yourself. Here's another example of why God no longer trusts you to lead his people, because you don't obey. You don't obey his counsel. So after this is like begins this pretty rapid descent for Saul, from his rebellion into a sense of being separated from God. The Spirit of God lifts off of him. He no longer hears from God. Samuel no longer comes to visit him. Samuel does not counsel him any longer. And now the Spirit of God is upon David. And David is receiving the blessing and the revelation, even though he's not acting as king yet. So the relationship between David and Saul becomes very, very fraught. And whereas at one time David could come after he had slain Goliath, he could come and he could play his harp, and it would calm Saul down when he had this tormenting spirit afflicting him. Now there's a scene where David is playing his harp for Saul, and instead of calming down, Saul takes his spear and tries to throw it through David's heart. So from here on, Saul is just consumed with jealousy and paranoia, and he doesn't trust anybody. He doesn't trust anybody on David's side. He doesn't trust people in his own cabinet. He doesn't even trust his own son, who actually is more on David's side than he is on his father's side. And Saul knows that. Saul knows that David and Jonathan are very, very close friends. So he's just consumed and getting more and more paranoid. It feels like, as a mental health diagnostician, and I would say there are signs of like paranoid schizophrenia happening, manic episodes where he's completely out of control with homicidal violence, and he begins pursuing David and chasing him all over creation, trying to kill him. eventually just becoming this very sad remnant of the man that he used to be. So I guess my lesson really here is that it starts with rebellion and disobedience. Often when we see a downfall of a leader, or even a downfall of a non-leader, but just somebody who's is going along well, and then there's an act of disobedience, or there's a prodigal journey that happens, and it destroys the connection with the Holy Spirit, and and the ability to hear and learn, and the meekness to listen and obey and be in fellowship with God. That gets broken somehow, and then you see people just completely devolve and deconstruct, and it's not a pretty picture. So it behooves us to keep ourselves very accountable to the Lord, to be very in touch and meek and teachable when it comes to the Holy Spirit's guidance, because we don't want to go down a road where we just can't even have fellowship with God anymore. So I guess I'll leave it there. Next time we'll probably be talking about David, because David's very much part of the story already. See you then.